Howdy, howdy. I don't have a lot of time. I gotta get ready for work. Um, I just took an hour and a half walk. It is lovely. I love walking in the dark. I've always loved that. When my kids were little, I used to get up at like 4:30 in the morning and go outside for a walk, or at that time I was running. Anyway, just to clarify a few things from that video. I dated right away after my divorce. I think I talked about this in another video. I didn't know how to be alone. So that was mistake number one. But I think it's biologically and physiologically embedded in a woman's DNA. Men think a woman who is divorced with young kids is looking for that man for financial purposes. And that's not entirely true or accurate. It is in our DNA to cohabitate. We're not supposed to raise our kids alone. And men are a protective factor for women. I've talked about this in another video. The number one priority for women is safety. And so you could imagine the amount of fear that a lot of women incur upon divorce, being out there in the world with their kids if they don't have a lot of protective factors or support in their life. So I dated right away. I actually lived with one guy who was really, really good for the girls and I for the time, but I was a shell of a person and he had his own issues and it didn't work out, but I'm very grateful for him. And we dated for a while and I lived with him. And it was after that I realized I couldn't put my kids through things like that it wasn't healthy for my kids to be meeting guy after guy. And I stayed single and celibate for years. So it's not that I've never dated. And I have dated men since my ex-husband. And I don't really know how to word this because I can't say they were full-blown cheating on me because we weren't. I thought we were just seeing each other. And then you know what's happening out there in the dating world. It's like, oh, they have 6 other lives happening. So there was a lot of that going on, which, makes me skittish because I'm into monogamy. I'm a one-person person. I don't want to share my person. I don't want to be shared. I don't want to share energy. It's not my jam. You do you, whatever. But that's not for me. So that really put me off when I realized that, a few of the guys that I was seeing had a bunch of different cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. And a couple were very honest. There was one guy who was so honest with me. I am so deeply appreciative of honesty that I stayed friends with this guy for a decade. We were very good friends. Even when he got married, he was very upfront with me. We started seeing each other. He said, I like you a lot. I just got divorced. I think he was only with 1 or 2 women in his whole life. He had lost weight. He looked great. He was getting attention he never got. His confidence was soaring. And he's like, I'm kind of loving all the attention I'm getting. I've never sowed my oats before. And I understood it. I was like, go for it. But that's not for me. But we got along so well that we actually stayed really, really good friends for years and years and years. So, and that was because he was so upfront and honest with me. And, I think for most people these days, that'll really win you over because it's so rare. But anyway, awareness, boundaries, compassion, empathy, building trust back in yourself, and trusting that you can learn how to trust somebody else again, coming up out of, being cheated on or infidelity. So the interesting thing is there's 2 sides of the coin. You have 2 people with low self-worth and low self-esteem, the cheater and the one being cheated on, because you don't have a lot of self-esteem if you're a cheater. And I didn't have a lot of self-esteem or self-worth to stay with somebody who was treating me that way. And what was role modeled for me, confidence and self-worth wasn't really nurtured. And that's okay. My parents did the best that they could. But I didn't really have great examples of that, which is why I probably had parents who were like, you dug your grave, lie in it. You made your bed, lie in it. It was very tough love, Irish, old school. Though that's what I was hearing. Like, well, you did this, you picked him, and this is your life now. And that was kind of the attitude. So And also you just they those that generation didn't have the options that we have now. So boundaries, I didn't have boundaries. Al-Anon was actually very helpful later on in my life after I left the marriage. Because the basic core principles of Al-Anon, taking the focus off of the other person, putting it on you, building your own self up, focusing on your own life, cleaning up your own backyard. But I didn't have boundaries. And the cheater doesn't have boundaries. They're breaking the boundaries. And someone like me on the receiving end of it, I just lacked boundaries. So, two sides of the coin, just a recipe for disaster. Heightened sense of awareness. People who cheat aren't very self aware. And my awareness, I can be hyper aware, and I tend to blame myself for things that really aren't my fault. So in my head, I was holding myself more accountable than him. And so our compassion and empathy can be really weaponized against us, which was happening. I was doing it to myself, and then, the script was being flipped, and I was kind of being told that I was, like over the top and dramatic or whatever. So awareness is really key. And what I was referencing in terms of saying that I had to take responsibility for my end of that, what I'm saying is, why do I keep attracting guys who treat me this way? Why have I attracted men who've cheated on me? That's what I mean. And then you lose a lot of trust in yourself, because it's like, well, how can I trust myself to pick the right person when I keep picking the wrong person? And how can I trust being in a relationship again when, one little thing happens and you're triggered? And then that's what's happening in the dating world. Nobody has patience anymore, because everybody wants everybody to be completely healed and over their past and picture perfect, and it just doesn't exist. I think the better strategy is to be with somebody where you can be a little bit vulnerable and really painfully honest, because it's a little embarrassing. I felt really pathetic. It's not easy to talk about these things per se, but I know I'm not the only one. And I know these things need to be spoken, about out loud, and we need the tools and tips and tricks to heal and process and get better, right? And so, I felt really stupid when I got out of my marriage, and I looked back and I was like, oh, what were you thinking? But it's really hard when you don't have that familial support. I mean, your family is essentially your backbone, especially when you're in your 20s and you're a young, young man, young woman. But Melanie Beattie's books are great on codependency. She's like the guru of codependency. That was wildly helpful. I read the book Women Who Run with the Wolves. That was a game changer for me. Dr. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about infidelity. I had linked Esther Perel's information. Terry Cole, the boundary boss, she's phenomenal. I just did so much research. I always want to do better. And if you can find somebody where you can be vulnerable and communicate and say, you're probably not cheating on me. You're not my ex-husband, you're not my ex-partner, you're not my ex-boyfriend, you're not my ex-girlfriend. But when you do that, it triggers me and it makes me feel insecure. The problem is that when we express those things, people get so like, ooh, like, I don't understand that. Why would you not want to be with somebody who's honest and communicative? You're not being attacked. Somebody's just saying, that makes me feel really insecure because this is what I went through. That's not an unhealed person. An unhealed person is reactive and explosive. A healed person can say to you, hey, can we talk about this? Because I really don't like how I feel. So I know I blew through that super quick. I will link some of the people that I talked about, but awareness, boundaries, building up your self-esteem, and having trust in yourself that your past does not dictate your future. Everything is an experience. You have to trust that you've learned the lessons. And the good news is that you'll be paying more attention to the red flags and the green flags moving forward. And that's kind of the blessing of betrayal and deceit and heartbreak and whatnot, is you know that you're not going to repeat certain things again. And you'll know quicker and quicker when you're in the same cycle. Anyway, I hope that helps. See ya.